So being involved with JDRF for so long, it was kind of something that I had always wanted to do. I didn't know what it was exactly, what God's plan was, but I just knew that I wanted to be involved more. I have learned that sharing your story can be so impactful to other people because it really provides them hope and in the faith that in this particular moment of diagnosis or this particular moment of, a really bad day, it's not the end, right?
Welcome to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. My name is Melissa Slemp, a certified nutritional health coach and the founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa, where I help women with type 1 diabetes to feel more empowered and live their best life despite their diagnosis. Each week, I will bring conversations and strategies from guest experts and my experience living with type 1 for over 40 years now. So if you're a woman ready to redefine how diabetes can look and feel for you, then the Type 1 and Midlife podcast is the show for you. In today's episode, we speak with Bek Hoskins. She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2000, just before her 11th birthday. And over time, she has overcome her initial feelings of shame and now courageously strives to make a meaningful impact. As the Maine State Advocacy Team Chair for JDRF since 2013, she recently had the opportunity to share her story before Congress, advocating for affordable insulin and federal funding for diabetes research. Bek is grateful for the advanced technologies that she relies on, including the Dexcom G6 and the Tandem T-Slim with IQ technology, which have greatly helped her manage her T1D. In addition to her advocacy work, Bek is pursuing the title of Mrs. Maine 2024, using this platform to raise awareness about type 1 diabetes. Her goal is to inspire others and show that extraordinary achievements are possible despite life-threatening diseases. Join us in this episode as Bek Hoskins shares her personal journey and message of faith. Hope you enjoy. Just a reminder that nothing you hear on this Type 1 and Midlife podcast should be a substitute for professional medical advice. Please always consult your medical professional before changing your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, hello and welcome. I am here today with Bek Hoskins. Welcome, Bek. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Thanks, Melissa, for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Yes, you've got some interesting tidbits to share with us. When you and I first met, we've chatted a little bit online, and I've just been inspired by who you are, what you're doing, and just how connected you are to advocacy and trying to help us all be seen and heard in the diabetes community. So yeah, I do appreciate all that you're doing. And we're going to learn more about that here as we talk. So let's start off with a little bit about yourself, your family, and of course, the diagnosis story. You can share what you are comfortable sharing with us.
Yeah, of course. Well, my family and we live in Maine. We're just outside of the capital here in Chelsea. And I married my high school sweetheart. His name is Barrett. We all call him Bear. We've got two little kiddos. Our daughter, Roslyn, who is 8.5, and our son, Bryce, who just turned 7. They certainly keep us really busy.
Yes, at that age, they do. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as my diagnosis goes, I was diagnosed in 2000. I was 10. It was 3 weeks shy of my 11th birthday. And really, it happened really quickly for me. My mom had noticed a couple of things, and she made a phone call to the pediatrician, and they were quite concerned with certain symptoms that I was having. So my mom had brought me into the hospital for some testing, and I didn't leave for a
Oh,
week.
wow. Wow. That's interesting. Yeah, because you were there for a week. I was diagnosed in 82, and I was there for a week. And, I've heard from a lot of other people that they're not generally in there that long. So I don't know if that was just, I'm not real sure what the reasoning is to keep people longer. Or I think in my year, and again, 1982, boy, that was a long time ago, over 40 years ago, they didn't know too much about diabetes. So I think it took them longer to really understand how to regulate, so that we could go home safely and to understand it all.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
for sure. I mean, at that point, and I don't know if you learned the same way, but with injections, when they were teaching us all about injections and carb counting and all of the things that you get taught when you're first newly diagnosed, it's so habit for me now. I don't even know how to explain my diabetes. I just I do it. I just do it. It's just nature for me now. But shooting oranges with like water, just so like you get the angle of the injection and so forth. And Barrett even remembers, like, when we first started dating back in high school, my parents were, you need to know how to do this.
Oh, get him on board. Yeah, that's important.
He was taught how to do the injections via an orange as well.
So you taught him the orange trick too.
Yep. He's been through it all. He actually, when we had first started dating, one of the biggest things, he became very, very involved with my diabetes. And the first thing that he had found was, I think we say it wrong, but we call it a Gila monster. It's like this oversized lizard that lives without pancreas.
Okay.
And so he was like, this is the cure, like, if they can live without it, so can you, kind of thing.
Oh, that's a funny throwback, right?
I think it has something to do with the saliva.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, it's kind of our mascot.
Yep. That's what keeps the conversation light. And definitely something that we can live better with when we can kind of, remember those funny moments for sure. So nice. Yeah. So how do you, what's your insulin therapy and routine now?
So it took a long time for me to finally agree to having an insulin pump. The doctors had, schooled me every year and tried to encourage me to go that route. And I lived with my diabetes until I was 19. And that was when I finally made the push. And my very first insulin pump was an Animas insulin pump.
Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard in a bit. Yeah.
Yep. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
And then, I moved on from Animas to Medtronic and had Medtronic for a little bit. I tried the Omnipod for a short period of time. I didn't have the CGM system yet. So for me personally, the Omnipod, I had one failure, ended up in the hospital, and I couldn't, trust that therapy again. I know people have really great success with it. And I think that it's an amazing technology to be able to be tubeless. So I think it certainly has some benefits, and I hear people have really good success with it. But now I am with the Tandem T-Slim and the Dexcom G6.
Really good. Yeah.
What I
and
use.
The G7 hasn't synced up with that system yet, because I'm at the time of this recording. I don't know that it's happened quite yet that the G7 is going to talk with it.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it yet, which I'm really looking forward to it. Melissa, you're on the G7 now, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I switched over. It's probably been 6 weeks now. Again, this is mid-July that we're talking. So I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, it's smaller. And this is something actually I wanted to talk to you about too when it comes to the pump, is being comfortable. And I think this is something that I struggle with too, is wearing devices. I can remember CGM, and they were bigger 10 years ago, I think, when I started on them. I've
Okay.
pretty much always been on the Dexcom, and I was I was embarrassed to show it, just like I was embarrassed to take shots in Publix. But all that has changed, just because I know it's something that we just have to be comfortable with, and it helps to educate and just to show who we are. It's part of us. It doesn't define who we are, but it's definitely part of us, and we should not be ashamed of that. So how do you feel? Because was that part of your resistance as far as wearing the pump?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I was diagnosed, literally everybody knew, hey, Bek's diabetic now. Maybe not everybody understood, but all of my friends at the time were, really curious. They wanted to test their blood sugar with my glucometer, and, they wanted to make sure they were okay and whatnot. And, they wanted to be involved in that manner, but it was still like on the outside looking in, thinking it was such an exciting thing. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's not fun. When I was diagnosed, and for years and years, I was really, really angry about it. I didn't know how to handle it. It just became this part of my life that I had to deal with. It was my burden to bear, kind of thing. So I hid my insulin shots. And, anytime I did it, I would typically go and run and hide. I would go to dinner with some friends, and I would eat, and then I would run off to the bathroom and go take my insulin.
Yeah,
I had
been there. Yeah, I understand.
One of my friend's moms, I swear she thought I was bulimic or something.
Right?
Because,
the misconception. That is so true. I never thought of that before, but that is that could be a little confusing for somebody just kind of witnessing what you're doing, right?
Gosh,
and of course and of course, we don't want to poke fun at that situation for anybody, but that is interesting. Yeah, for sure.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I apologize. I didn't mean it like
that.
No,
it's okay. It's okay.
I had never thought about it literally until years later. I was like, oh my gosh, Lisa probably thought this about me. I'm like, no, I'm just doing my insulin, good. But I was really embarrassed by it. I was ashamed. I didn't want to be different. I didn't want people to look at me differently.
Yeah.
I had to wear, the alert bracelet then. I was going to a private school. So we didn't have a full-time nurse on staff. So I did a lot of walking around the gym. If my blood sugar started raising, I wasn't allowed just to go and take an insulin shot, which to me now seems absolutely crazy.
That is something. Yeah.
But soccer games, basketball games, anything along those lines, I had to have an adult that was a part of my support team to be there. So, the responsibility didn't fall on someone else if I was playing and stuff. And if they weren't there, I couldn't play. So there was a big deal about it. Going into high school, same thing, I hid it as much as I could. People obviously still knew that I was type 1 diabetic and whatnot, but it was just, there was a lot of hiding the things. And then transitioning into my very first insulin pump, I was really excited about it, the new technology, the new delivery of being able to get the medicine that saves my life.
Yes.
I was really excited about that, but I would wear it. I'd typically wear it clipped to my jeans pockets or my belt, on my hip. And I had so many people ask, because I used to serve, banquet serve, waitressing and stuff like that. So people would look at me and they'd see it and they'd go, oh my gosh, what kind of beeper is that? I'm like, well, it's actually an insulin pump.
Yeah.
And most recently, and now I'm really comfortable in wearing my insulin pump. This just happened within, the past year. I'm kind of throwing us all over the place, but
that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, this is how we roll. Yeah, this is just kind of unpack Bek today. I love it.
we were getting ready for our annual diabetes walk that we do every year. It's annual.
Mhm.
And something that was just laid on my heart was, I in my head, I say, it comes from God. That is
Mhm.
my faith behind it.
Mhm.
But he had just laid on my heart that I gave you this mountain to climb
Mhm.
because I knew that you'd be strong enough to do it and willing to make the difference. And in
Mm.
that very moment, I realized, holy cow, like
Yeah.
I, it came to I finally I got this piece that I had been missing all of these years. Why me?
Mhm.
And it's something that I haven't had to ask myself
Mm.
anymore. So a lot has
Mhm.
transitioned since last
Yeah.
fall, which I'm really excited to hop into and share.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it's been a wild ride. Um, just dealing with there was one of your podcasts, a woman had talked about the different levels of grief, I think, with
Okay. It was Jessica.
diagnosis. Um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that was there were pieces of that where I was like, you know
Yeah.
what?
Kubler-Ross.
Yeah.
I think it's 5 stages of grief. Yes, the 5
Yes, I think
stages.
that's right. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. And we're going to have Jessica back here soon for another episode.
Mm,
So yeah, it's just so real. And that's what I love about the fact that we can get on, even on a space like this, when we can listen and just get inspired by each other's. And it's interesting, when you just said, and it reminds me of the episode we had with Sandra Joseph. I think that was episode 10. And you just spoke her story as well. Hers was very, very involved with her faith and her walk with God, and how he spoke to her as well. That question you ask, why me? I had that same question itself. And to me, I don't think it was really just a light that went off that quick as far as my acceptance. I think it's showing itself as time goes on. And of course, my faith gets stronger and stronger. So God is working for sure. He knows who we are and what we are capable of, and we just need to listen, right? That's the hardest part, and knowing that He knows us.
it is
So,
so true.
yeah. Well, you mentioned that statement that you just shared is really where you are now with what you're doing with like the JDRF and these outreach. Share with us about that. And I know before we jumped on today, I told you, and I'll share this with the listeners, that I used to be more involved with JDRF years ago. I was with the mentoring program. So this was new families diagnosed. And that was it's probably been 6-8 years since I've been connected with that. And for some reason they fell off. I don't know if that program is still going. So maybe that's why I'm not connected with it anymore. But I am sorry to say that I haven't made the effort to stay more connected with JDRF. So this is another reason I really wanted to talk to you about, because there's an opportunity for all of us at whatever level that is and whatever time we can give. But I'm excited about what you can share about what you're doing today and how we can get plugged in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So my story with JDRF started in 2012. I was working and I had come across this walk, and it was for something different, but I wanted to do it. And I reached out to my sister, and I asked her if she wanted to join me in this walk. And she was like, look, Beck, walking is just not her thing. But she goes, look, Beck.
She was honest with you.
She was. She goes, find one for diabetes and I'll walk with you.
Oh, I like this. Okay.
I said, okay.
I
All
see
right,
where this is
challenge
going.
accepted.
Uh-huh.
And if you knew the dynamic between me and my sister that is, next above me, I am the baby of 9.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you knew the dynamic, it would be hilarious. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
would understand and laugh hysterically. But So anyway, so I had started Googling and I found, this is when I discovered JDRF, and we had missed the walk in 2012, but saw that they were posting for 2013 already. And I was like, perfect, this is it. So I told my sister, I was like, hey, you said if I found this, you would walk. So we had our whole family get involved in that walk, nieces and nephews, and my sister and her little daughter were there. And, obviously my husband and I, and at that time we didn't have kiddos, but so we did that walk, and it's been the only one that she's ever done. But she's always been in the background, watching things on TV and whatnot, cheering me on. So it is her, she was the piece that got me started. So we had partnered with JDRF back in 2013, mostly focusing on the annual walk for fundraising. And we've done this every year until COVID hit. And then we were all kind of like, we couldn't, get our big groups together and walk together. We had done a couple of the
virtual walks at that time, didn't they?
Yep.
Just to kind of keep the momentum going for that.
Exactly, because the fundraising piece of it is so important, funding the research and bringing out new technology, and until we ultimately fund the cures that we're all looking for. So we have been involved in a couple of the one night, we say gala.
Okay. Yeah.
No, we say gala, but they call it gala when you're down in Mass. So they're a little bit more fancy than we are.
A little more fancy, right?
But yeah, we've always just called it a gala. But
right, it's a cocktail party, isn't it?
It is.
It's another thing to call it. Yeah. We have those here locally with Maya as well. Yeah. But I've done some walks too. That was back in, we're in 2023. Yeah. Back in the 2000s is when I was doing the walks just about every year. And the American Diabetes Association had one as well. So I would flip flop and do those. So again, you are holding me accountable, because I have been disconnected from those walks in many years. So so thanks for the reminder. Yes. Because it is important. And, I'm going to bring up something that may be something that everybody is, because you are connected with JDRF, so you may know more about just the levels of administration. And this, this is just my thoughts, and shut me down if this is not true. But I guess there's so many organizations, and JDRF's been around a long time. But I guess I've always been not suspicious, but just wanting to be sure that what they're doing was really going to what I was hoping it was going to, which was funding the research and looking for a cure and all of that. And, I found something. I'm looking at my notes here too, because I know that they're doing even more things. They're doing things like, getting in front of Congress. I'll call it Congress. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I'm so out of touch with all this. So I'm learning right alongside the listeners today about exactly what JDRF is doing, to spread awareness and, to bring the communities together, but to secure federal funding for diabetes research. That part I didn't know until I dug into it prior to you and I talking today. So what can you share about that? And you are the Maine, so the state advocacy team chair for the state of Maine, which is super cool. So you can just kind of throw that into the same kind of response. I know we're jumping around, but we're getting to it.
We are. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So being involved with JDRF for so long, it was kind of something that I had always wanted to do. I didn't know what it was exactly, what God's plan was, but I just knew that I wanted to be involved more. I have learned that sharing your story can be so impactful to other people because it really provides them hope and in the faith that in this particular moment of diagnosis or this particular moment of, a really bad day, it's not the end, right? So sharing our stories is so impactful to other people, knowing that there's still hope. There's still light at the other side. You can be able to get through this particular moment and still have a great outcome in the end. So JDRF had actually reached out to me in January, Carla Falasco, and she had asked if I would consider becoming the Maine State Advocacy Team Chair. And I was just blown away thinking, I was literally like in tears during the Zoom meeting. I couldn't even fathom the fact that they asked me to consider them and not the other way around. But at this point, I knew that, this was my more. So I absolutely jumped in, said yes. My husband and I had both gone down to Washington, D.C. in March. And we met so there is an ATC for each state. Like kind of the head advocate or the lead advocate for each state. And they may, like the bigger states, they may have more than one ATC, but then they have like all of their advocates as well. So if you're in the state of Maine and you want to become an advocate, or any of the states, honestly, you can just go to jdrf.org/advocacy and it pops up right there. Join the team today. So it's really incredible. Us for this state of Maine, we have, 2 senators and 2 House representatives, and Bear and I were able to go and meet with the 4 of them ourselves on Capitol Hill. And that experience was just so incredible, sharing my story. Now, this is the piece, because my husband is very good with the facts and, researching when insulin was created and how much it was sold for and who created it and where it went from there and just how far it's gone since. And I bring the story.
Oh, what a great team.
But it was absolutely incredible. And Susan Collins is one of our senators here in the state of Maine. And she had actually created, when she went into the Senate originally, she had been talking, I think it was a story that she had heard, and she told her, I'm going to mess this up, but one of her people, we'll just leave it at that. She was like, I want to be a part of the diabetes caucus. And at that point they were like, well, that would be really great, but we have a problem. She goes, what's that? There's no such thing. And so that was when she had created that diabetes caucus with Senator Jean Shaheen from New Hampshire. And they had partnered up. And it's become this really, really big, outreach for in Congress. And since then, they both have personal connections now with type 1. And so it becomes even more important to them. So getting involved and being able to share our story, and meeting with them. So Senator Collins recently had actually spoken out and called out myself and Bear on the Senate floor just within the last couple of months, sharing the story, trying to progress. The reason we went to DC was to advocate for affordable insulin, because as much as we love all of our tech and everything that helps us live healthier, our insulin is the piece that if we can't get it, there's no point in having all the other stuff, right?
That is true. It starts with that foundation of insulin. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So this is the life saving
source.
drug.
It gives us
it gives us life. So So
and that's something that we're seeing a lot more in the news now of the insulin affordability. So it all starts at a smaller level, and you are part of that forefront of bringing the stories and the need for this more apparent to the people that can control it, right? It is all about, so that is super cool. Yeah.
So there are three primary manufacturers here in the US that had been feeling so much pressure over the past few years from Congress. And they had finally made that decision like it was their idea. They were like, we have this great idea, and we are going to lower the cost of our insulin to $35 a vial. And so one of the biggest reasons we went to DC this past March, and on our advocacy agenda, was to bring forth the Insulin Act of, I think it's like Insulin Act of 2023, because we've been doing, or JDRF had been doing, partnering with Congress to push affordable insulin for the past few years. So I think the actual bill of this year is Insulin Act of 2023.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay.
So so going and gaining different signatures from all of the Senate and the House to be able to back up what the manufacturers have decided to do. So keeping them accountable and basically making it a law that says, okay, you agreed to do this $35 a file. You cannot raise it now, because we really need to have that consistency, to know and not have, we have enough things that we have to think about as a type 1 diabetic in every single day. We have enough to think about, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
not to have to worry about, okay, it's $35 to date, but what's it going to be next month? So having,
to be assured, that this is going to stick, that this is going to be an ongoing, something we can depend on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a silly question, and, because I know vials are used when you are on an insulin pump.
Yes.
So the fact that, the statement is that the vials would be, $35, to hold the cap at that. And what I've been interested in or curious is this: how does that apply to those of us who are MDI? How does that cost transfer over, or, how is that cost affected for those of us that are on insulin pens when it's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And this may just be a silly question. Maybe there's a way that they kind of cross that over and it's impacted for both sources of insulin that you need.
Yes. Yeah. So I do know that within this piece, and the manufacturers had also stated, and I don't remember the dollar amounts, but I believe, if I remember correctly, because I had used pens for a while as well, it's like 5 pens to a box.
Right, exactly.
I think.
Yeah, that's the way that they package it.
Yeah, so they were working on lowering the cost of that as well, or stated that they would. And again, I don't remember the dollar amounts, but I do know that was a piece of it.
Which makes sense. Yeah. It's going to be, it's going to be
that was definitely a part of it as well.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that. I tend to be a thinker about all stuff. I'm like, okay, but what about, because vial is just one way to describe, how do you purchase and get it, but it doesn't apply to everybody's usage of how they inject. So
exactly.
Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Nice. No, for sure. I'm like one of the worst advocates, honestly, because I'm listening to a Zoom and I go, okay, awesome. We did this. Great. Now what about this?
You're always thinking of the next thought.
Like, calm down.
Yeah.
I am.
Sometimes our brain goes faster than we can even keep up with ourselves. That's so true. So what do you think? And is there anything like right now? Because that's a huge thing that JDRF and Congress is working on just to help protect our needs with insulin coverage. Is there anything else going on within that JDRF's work and what they're pushing for or helping to spread and get some support with from the government?
Yeah. Yep. So another piece of why we had gone down to DC in March was for renewal for the SDP, which is the Special Diabetes Program.
Okay.
And that is a program that focuses on, let me find it here real quick. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, there's a lot of really useful information. I know it's a lot to take down, and just about everything we're talking about today, because this is definitely a lot of information and stats and links to different things. We will be sharing that in the show notes too. So there's no need of having to get a piece of paper and pencil out at this point. If this is some things that you want to take with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the Special Diabetes Program, they are doing it's really it's one of the biggest programs to support and fund the research that is going on at the National Institute of Health for type 1 diabetes. So this is the hub of our nation, is my understanding of it. Don't quote me on that, but that is my understanding of where our research is going. For the cures, for the tech. They're talking about beta cells and islets and all of these different pieces that they are doing research on and studies and so forth. And I can't wait to hear what comes, because they are doing so much, and we learned so much when we were in DC. It was 3 or 4 days. And the first 2 days were just jam-packed. Here's all the information. And there were points where I was like, babe, you got to stay, because my brain, I can't handle it anymore.
You couldn't put any more in the brain. Yeah.
So there is so much going on for our world and our community of type 1 diabetes. It is absolutely incredible. And I'm so excited to be a small piece of it.
Well, yeah,
it's really exciting.
Yeah, and this is perfect. I'm so glad that you're here and that you were able to take the time to come talk with us and to share all this with the listeners. Again, we're going to link a lot of this in the show notes. So there's some different sites that you can go and visit and just get this information and to be able to follow along and to stay in the loop, right, to what is happening. Yeah, that's perfect. So what about local communities? What do you think, if you were to give us advice? The first thing you did was sign up for a walk. So you went to JDRF, sign up for a walk, and that led to more this, and then it led to more things, and it led to more advocacy and just being part of the community. So what would you suggest for some listeners here that want to get more involved?
I would absolutely hands down recommend the One Walk. It's always been our favorite event. It's so much fun. It still astonishes me, honestly. So a piece that I had kind of left out earlier. I don't know about you, Melissa, but when I was diagnosed, I was literally the only type 1 diabetic in the world.
We felt like it, didn't we? Yes.
That's how I felt. Then.
Yeah.
There, internet hadn't blown up. We hadn't all been connected as we are now. It's a huge piece of why I love Instagram so much.
Exactly. It is bringing us together, isn't it? It sure is. Yes.
It absolutely is. And so it still just blows my mind for every event that I show up connected. For me personally, there are other foundations, but for me personally, it's JDRF. And to see how many people come out to support somebody that they love who has type 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind blowing to see how many of us are affected. And I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. It still blows my mind every single event. So I know for us here in the state of Maine, before COVID, we had our own chapter here in Maine. And it was just massive. We always did our one walk in down south in Saco. And it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. It was massive. Since COVID, they have combined Greater New England. So, we've got Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. I think Vermont actually has their own one walk, but Maine and New Hampshire, we do our walk now together. So last year it was in New Hampshire. It was the first year back from COVID. So it was kind of small. It was rainy.
Sure, everyone's still getting
that
used
day.
to.
It really just, it was small. But this year it's back in Maine. It's in Portland, Payson Park, and it's gonna be amazing. And I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
It's nice to get back to it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the easiest way is to go on JDRF.org and to search. Because it's a very easily, the website's real easy to navigate and to find out where the closest walk is for you, and signing up, registering, and doing all that. So that's definitely
absolutely.
Yeah. Something else that we were talking about, again, prior to jumping on here, was the Advocates in Action Council. And we'll just touch on these just a little bit, just to give some other ideas, again, because these are other ways to get plugged in and to get involved in helping, not only your own community, but, just in general. So, and I'm going to read a brief description of this. So this is young adults who are business professionals, community leaders, and engaged students. And these up-and-comers actively support the advancement of JDRF's advocacy priority areas, spreading awareness of type 1 diabetes within their communities. So I love that they're starting it at a younger generation. So it sounds like it's directly, it's kind of built around teenagers, young adults, which is so cool. It's another way for people to get connected who live with the type 1 and, to be able to help.
Absolutely. They really do have so many different communities kind of grouped for like particular ages, which I think is really,
I think that's a good idea.
Important because because to be able to be connected with somebody that is, I see another diabetic with a pod or something and I'm like, hey, you're part of my people.
I know. It's amazing. Isn't it?
I'm like instantly like connected. That's me personally. But I think it's really important to be able to have that support group. And it's a huge impact. And then, to have all of their stories combined and to go to make a difference, it really is, it's significant. It really is.
Sure is.
They also have, the one walk is kind of like all inclusive, all ages. They have the Children's Congress, which is, even the younger group. You've got a bunch of cutest little kids that, I wish I could just take it all away. But it's a part of their story now as well. And they are real, true champions. Let me tell you what, there is nothing. I have never seen anything like it. These little kids who take on Congress,
really,
all year round. Amazing to see the impact that they have.
That's super cool. It's so inspiring, and when you see that inner strength that we can all possess at any age when given the challenge, because type 1 is a challenge. It's and it's all about what we decide to do with it. So, and obviously their families are very involved with this. So it becomes a group effort and just unified, bringing families together and people and other families together, that all have that that similar thing in common, which is raising a type 1 child. So the other
Yeah.
thing that I noticed was the coverage to control. So this is demanding coverage that works. And you already touched on this just a little bit ago, working with people with type 1 to use our voice to secure federal funding for diabetes research and the insulin affordable access. So that's, they're doing some really, really cool things. So is there something like that? I'm assuming, again, when we can take the time to go in and look these things over on the website to find out more about how we can get involved, or if we can get involved, or if it's just a matter of just staying in the loop. Maybe it's getting on an email notification or something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Everything is right on JDRF.org. It's super, super simple to navigate. You can certainly find, the One Walk. I think they have, well, it might all be right here, but JDRF.org, Advocacy, all of these different resources that they have out there, our community, and the different ways to volunteer, the different ways to take action. You literally just go in, you register, and, for advocates, we have, and I'm sure that they do this for all the other groups as well. But we have a monthly Zoom meeting, so we can know exactly what has happened, that previous month and how far we've gone.
Really good.
So it's definitely keeping us all in the loop.
Sounding very transparent. Yeah. So the information is obviously readily available, which is the way it should be. Yeah. Really good.
Yep. And, it's a place where, for myself, I have like a million different questions. And like I said earlier, I'm like, okay, this is awesome. So we've got this one piece. How about this? I have to take it back a couple of notches because, these first small wins are really just the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the foundation.
Yeah.
For our community and making real change. So it's definitely really exciting. It's very accessible, easily navigatable. But
that's a word. That's a word.
Get involved in any avenue that you want to. It's really incredible to have, just to grow that support group.
It sure is. Yeah.
And the more voices we have also, it's bringing more awareness to your own communities, to your towns, to your states. And, we have enough voices in it telling, each of us telling our own stories, then the bigger the impact we can make and the bigger the difference we can see in the end. And we'll all just stampede in DC.
I know there's power in numbers for sure.
Exactly.
Yes, the voice is louder, right? Well, you've obviously done a really good job. Just in you've inspired yourself, because I can just see the energy. I can see Bek and I talking right now. I know this is not something that the listeners can see, but I love just the true joy that you have from something that could really make us feel hopeless, but there is hope in what we get to do every day, and diabetes can definitely steer us that way. So you've inspired us here, with this chronic disease, and there are no limitations, which brings up something else I wanted to talk to you about. So Maine State Pageant in 2024, you're working on something else, aren't you? So tell us about that.
I am. So, when I was asked to jump in as this advocate leader for the state of Maine, and realizing how many of us are impacted with type 1, and it's no longer just me, and coming to the acceptance of, why me, I realized, what, if it was not a part of my story, if God had not included this in my story, I might have a heart for it. But it would be different. My passion may not be the same. So, I jumped into advocacy. We're doing a lot of the events with JDRF that we can that are local here in New England. And something else that it was presented to me, never in my wildest dreams would I think that I would actually jump in and say yes. But a friend had been involved earlier this year, and she came up and she asked, Bek, like, you really need to get involved with the United States of America Mrs. Maine's state pageant. And I was like, whoa. My friend's name is Kristen. I was like, Kristen, no. She goes, but Bek, we'll have so much fun. I was like, oh, okay, we'll have fun. So
sign me up.
First, it was just like, okay, sure. And then I realized, I was like, Bek, this is another platform that is, nationwide. Sure, we're working on a state level right now, which is amazing. But bringing further awareness to type 1 diabetes, which I think is so, so important, because, I have people asking me about my insulin pump now, and they're like, hey, what kind of cell phone is that? We've moved on from the beeper era, but I'm like, oh, it's an insulin pump. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I asked. I'm like, please don't be sorry. Like, I don't think at this point in my life, I know of a type 1 diabetic that is uncomfortable, and maybe I'm wrong. So I'm so sorry if there are people in stages that are just not comfortable in talking about it. But for me, I'm like, ask, because it needs to be known. The signs, the symptoms, every stage of type 1 just needs to have more awareness.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
So
now's the time to talk.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, my biggest goal for this pageant, wearing a title of Mrs. Chelsea 2023 and running for Mrs. Maine 2024 is really, I just want to encourage others and to show all of those who live with a life-threatening disease. Type 1, I'm very passionate about, but truly any life-threatening disease, we can still dream really big, and we can still go after them, and we can still do extraordinary things.
Absolutely.
It does not have to
there
hold
are
you
no
back.
limitations. No,
Exactly.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shoot for the sky and trust that you can do it, and that there's support along the way, just like anybody. We just like you said, diabetes happens to be our challenge. You and I and the many other people out there, but we all have challenges. Everybody is faced with some mountain to climb. So
Absolutely.
that same inspiration it helps to inspire all of us. I've seen so many different stories. Oh gosh, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. I don't think I'll spend the time here. But we all have just people that have just found themselves, and it's usually physical limitations that I've witnessed, and how they have just rose above and shined on a different level. Yeah, it is so amazing. So God is God is glorified in that. That He is shining, and He's saying, you may be what you consider handicapped or smaller in some sense in this part of your life, but just give it to me. I'm going to show where your gift is and how you can shine, and it lies in every one of us. And the sooner that we can come to that realization, I think the better. And that's really our goal here on this show, and within my coaching, it's just to really, really advocate for that, because life is too short, and we need to shine on, ladies. So true. So how soon is your pageant?
So our pageant is October 21st and 22nd. The actual show is the 22nd, and it is, I know that it's aired throughout the state. I'm pretty sure they go national with it, which is kind of crazy, but it's here in the capital in Augusta. It was originally being held at the Senator Inn and Spa, but it's grown so big that we've moved to the Civic Center in Augusta. So we're looking at closer to, 400 people in person.
You're getting nervous just thinking about it.
I mean,
take a deep breath, right? Yeah.
I did a fashion show a couple weeks ago and I did not fall off the stage. So
here you go. There's some baby steps, right? Literally speaking, right? A little practice then. Yeah. That is good. Well, that is something else. And if there's a way we can link that into the show notes, we will find a way to do it just so the listeners can follow along and support you. And just to see Bek living with type 1 diabetes, just looking beautiful and proud on stage. That's amazing.
It is definitely something real quick. I just want, I want the acceptance to become easier. And it maybe that's too much of a hope for me, but it took me years to accept it, to be like, this thing, I know our listeners can't see it, but this saves my life. Why should I be ashamed of my insulin pump?
That's right.
Right. Yeah. And I think that once I became comfortable with that and I understood, I can wear it wherever I want to. And it's okay. And if people ask me about it, I'm okay with it now. And I really I want to bring that hope to other people as well. It's not something, it saves our life. It keeps
sure
us
does.
alive.
Yes. We need more passionate voices like you. And I know there are many of us out here that feel the same way. So I appreciate you coming today. And just to share too, because I know that you use some products that you are passionate about. So I want to give you a chance to share that. And again, we're going to link that into the show notes. There's some favorite products that I love as well, which is something that's part of the show here, that people can check out. And it's everything I use, whether it's CGM stickers or wine. There's a wine company that I love yes. And, but these are things I use, I love, I support. They're good quality products. And you have one as well. So we would just like to hear a little bit about that.
I do. Yeah. So the brand is Arbonne. It is a Swiss-based company. That's where it was born. It is all vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, nut-free, cruelty-free, all of the frees.
Checks all the boxes, right? Yeah.
Everything is botanically based, non-toxic, literally like just the cleanest products. We have over 300 products. We just had 9 new products launched, but anywhere from nutrition to skincare, body care, makeup, hair care, literally we literally have it all. My favorite piece is the nutrition, just because of my type 1 and what it's done for my type 1. It's just, our tech does a lot. I will not take anything away from, our insulin, our CGM systems, and our insulin pumps. But if I can get a little more, if I can have 90% in range on a typical week, then I'm going to do that. So our nutrition line has been absolutely significant with that. We have brand new protein products that just came out. Our Energy Fizz, which is kind of the replacement for coffee or any energy drinks that are all full of gnarly things and packed with sugar and all of that stuff. That one actually, now on the nutrition label, it promotes alertness and enhances cognitive performance, temporarily relieves fatigue, and it helps promote healthy blood sugars. Now, I know that they intend that statement for a person that does not have type 1 diabetes. But for me personally, I can see the difference, and I absolutely love it. So that would be BekHoskins.arbonne.com.
Okay. We will definitely link that as well. Yeah. Well, the show notes are going to be like pages and pages long, which I hope all the listeners can appreciate, because so much was shared and talked about today. So many important things, again, to help support women in midlife. I know you're not quite in midlife yet, but you will be.
Not yet. 34 next Thursday.
Yes. Well, happy birthday. And by the time this airs, you will be 34. So we know that. And that's another part too that we wanted to, I've been getting a lot of feedback from listeners of all ages. So, the title is Type 1 in Midlife. That's just because that's something that speaks to me, but it's a piece that I wanted to fill, and because it speaks to me, because it's who I am too. So I know that it's important, but I know that the information we're sharing is really ageless. It's, everything that you just shared about the advocacy, JDRF, is obviously those men, women of all ages, and families, children can learn and be a part of. So that is our goal here. So midlife women, yay. And yay for everybody else, no matter what your age or how long you've been living with diabetes. Again, these are just a little bit of feedback I get here and there. So I just want to get a chance to address that and to speak for everybody here, because we are all in this together. So
absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you, Bek, for being here and sharing your story and your hope-filled strategies on using your voice and how we can use our voice and stories to help spread awareness. So, and like I said, just check out the show notes and reach out we will also link Bek's Instagram handle. So I know she's active on there, so you can reach out to her if you have any specific questions. And stay tuned for our next episode next week. Again, Bek, thanks so much. You're a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
Yes. And we will talk. I'll be talking to you soon, but we'll be back in here next week. So have a hope-filled day, and until next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Type 1 in Midlife podcast. Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. And be sure to check us out at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for our free resources. See you next week.